Back to the Born Sacrifice channel. This is episode 2 of the 924S build, where I take this engine, which is a VW Audi 1.8 turbocharged engine, and put it in the old Porsche. Now, the last time round I took the engine out, the existing one, which is now down there somewhere, and got that the engine bay clear, ready for this to go in. I sort of loosely fitted it at the end last time and held it up with a few bits of wood, and one of the first things that became clear is I'm going to need to find a way of mounting this engine in the space so that I can then work out the brackets that come down to the engine mounts on either side and get that positioned. So to do that, I need to get this level on the floor. I'm going to build something out. I've got some steel that came in today, hopefully build a frame around that, and yeah, roughly to the height of where the drive shaft comes out, obviously. First of all though, what I need to do is get the car level. This is very easy to get level. A new frame should hopefully be easy enough to get level, but that's no good if the car's not straight. So it's roughly level left to right. What I need to do is get the whole thing now level front to back. It's not going to be F1 levels or Project Binky levels of engineering for this. Because the car didn't have any weight in the front, when I was trying to lift the back up, it wasn't having any of it. The front just kept going up as well. So I've had to lower the front down, and I've got it about as level as I think I need to have it. The other side's exactly the same. Right, so now that I've got the car sitting square, I need to work out how to mount this. So this is going to be mounted off of the floor. I'm going to try and build a frame that this will sit on so that it's square in the engine bay, and so that the drive shaft goes into the back of the engine. I've done some sums and I think I'm going to be okay in terms of length. What I'm going to do though, just to make sure that I haven't made any silly mistakes, I'm just going to mark it all out before I start cutting, so that I've got all the lengths marked, so that I know for definite that I've got enough and then some spare. And unfortunately I've just got an angle grinder, which is a bit sparky, but I'll get through that in relatively short order. So just get this marked out and then I'll get on to cutting. All set and time to get the grinder going. I've already cut this into 2 lengths just so that it's more manageable and can fit it into the vise. I'm slightly over top on the safety gear, basically asthma, and then I have actually seen one of these metal cutting discs on a grinder explode before, so particularly cautious about that. So just going to run through now and just cut out the lengths I need. So the ends of the bars are now cleaned up and squared off as much as possible. I was putting trying to line these up in the vise as vertically as I could, just using the spirit level. I don't know how much difference it's going to make. The sizes are roughly the same. It's slightly shoddy, to be honest. Okay, all of the metal is now cut and marked, ready to go. So I need to get on and do some welding. Welding is definitely my weakest point, and if you've thought anything's been bad before, you're probably now thinking we're about to see something a bit special. There is a fire extinguisher if it all goes badly wrong. I've not had that yet, but it's just taking me a while to get used to it, and partly getting the settings right. So I've got a was it a Clark 151EN with gas. So get the gas actually from Hobby World. So if you are looking at doing this sort of thing, or looking to do welding, or even if you're getting fed up with paying too much money, Hobby World was really good. It wasn't that expensive, and essentially you just put down a deposit on the bottle and pay a small fee for the gas. It was a lot cheaper, and I've got a receipt somewhere hopefully, so just when I take it back, they're nothing to do with me, but it's a good service, so I thought I'd share it. So yes, so I'm going to start off by making the frame. So I've got a couple of uprights which will need to go, I think, there and there. I'll just double check the width. I'll get those sort of spot welded in place, get the rest of it set up, and then go through and weld it all in properly. Hopefully it's going to work. The welder's already set up. I've checked all the settings, and that's basically for 2mm steel. I've set it up to what it said in the manual. First few spots in. I swear the biggest one of the problems I have with welding is something will come with experience, is actually getting the just getting the tip in the right place. So that's the first phase done. And as you can see, oh my god, it looks horrible. There's one or two that have gone quite well, and there's... Next phase is, this is the top beam, and this is where the engine is going to sit. But so that I can get level, to get the engine level, I need to be able to adjust it. So there's going to be a bolt welded to that, and then the nuts can go and hold the engine in place. So what I have already done is, although it doesn't seem to be sitting perfectly flat, is I've already ground down the tops of the nuts. So now I've got this first nut on, which will go into there. I need to just position this one. Next up, I've got the arm which goes from one side of the engine to the other, and I'm going to start by tacking this into place. Then I'll tack the next cross member in at height, and now I can work out the position of that to the other side of the frame. Just about clearing the sump, so I've got enough room there, so I just need to put that roughly in place and just make sure everything's lined up properly. Use these. Next stage is to just get this little top piece welded on, so that I've then got something to mount the screw to, the bolt to. And hoist is slack, and my little stand is doing its job. Just put a length of metal along there, and hopefully that will hold it steady. And there we have it, the first proper thing I've made, and it's worked. The engine's lined up perfectly at the back. I need to check to make sure this is properly level, but the principle's fine. It just needs it will need a slight adjustment, but yeah, really pleased with how it's come out, apart from one thing. It doesn't work for what it's designed to do, or it's not going to work. It fits perfectly where it is, but there was one thing which I was thinking about when I first started designing, or thinking about how I was going to make this, and then I just got too excited when I actually started to get on with it and forgot one of the key points. And if you can think what that is, if you're going to say you forgot to hook up the dowel, that's a bonus point, but it's not that. It's the fact that I forgot about the cross member. And on this side of the engine, I think the side closest to me should be okay, but on this side I think it's going to clash with the bar that goes across. So I think I'm going to check this, but I think what I'm going to have to do is cut it and then move the bar further back, and then just try and find a way of supporting the engine. I now know that the cross member is going to come over about there, so I need to basically cut that section out to give clearance, and once I've got that, I'll put in a new section round about here. I'll also just knock this off and add on an extension, because the bracket was sitting right on the top there, so while I'm going through rejigging it, no pun intended, it'd be a good time to add that on, I think. So I'm still very pleased with the work that I did, even though it was wrong. Obviously a bit of a learning experience for me, and now to basically destroy it and rebuild it. The welding's done. This section here, to be honest, I got a bit bored. Well, not bored, just a bit frustrated. I'm not sure how much weight it's going to add, but it's all very messy. So I've just got enough in there to make sure it doesn't fall off. This bit, however, I'm much more pleased with. So there's the extension, which is a section about that long, which has gone in, and obviously I've taken more care over doing that bit, and just ground it back. There was one section, actually probably not dissimilar to that, but there was one section around the other side where, when I ground it back just to make sure that there weren't any gaps, there was a fairly pronounced line sort of some of the way across, so I've re-welded and ground that. So now it's time to try and have a look and see what it's like under the engine. So the sump is gone, the windage tray is out, although this may be changed for something else, and the oil pickup, as you can probably tell from here, where that's going to end up on the engine is pretty much where the cross member is going to be, and that's where the sump's going to need to be modified. So I'm going to take this off now, so there's nothing that's going to snag when I try and position the engine. This ended up being a lot less straightforward than I thought. Where I've had to modify the jig, it made it difficult to get everything in place. So I've got a shim and just used a clamp to hold everything down. It's in position, roughly speaking. And on this side, I needed to replace one of the brackets. In the end, I spent ages going back and forth. In the end, I just decided to get the engine level on the stand and then move the stand into position. So that's all locked in at the back, and I've got a little laser level, set that to the height of the drive shaft on the back, and then just found the middle of the car just using a couple different measures, and that lines up very nicely. So next week for me, some successes and some not. So successes, I'll take the win on the jig, although I had to modify it. That was just me getting all my things without going back and looking at my original design. It worked out in the end, although it did need a bit of improvisation. My welding is not as good as it was. I'm a bit disappointed with that, but overall everything there did what it's supposed to, and I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. In terms of the way that things work, so obviously the engine's in there and it's where it's supposed to be, hopefully. The clearance on the turbo and the exhaust manifold is fine. Turbo looks a bit lower than it should be because it's not bolted in properly, but so that's all good. And on the other side we've got the intake manifold, and I knew that was going to be tight against the brake booster, but actually it's not as bad as I thought. I have seen where people have cut these down and welded them back together again to make them fit, but I think if I move down the size on the brake booster, then that should solve some of the issues there. So yeah, have high hopes for that. On the negative though, is the cross member. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as it is. It just doesn't fit the way that I have seen it, the way that others have done it. I don't know if they've not got the engines sitting quite flat, or if they're on a slant front to back, or what have you. But it's just not working for me. There's especially when I consider what's going to happen when I put the steering rack in. I've no idea the way that's going to even possibly work. So yeah, I was going to have a look at the cross member next. I'm going to certainly be doing some research on that and trying to figure out what I need to do to make it all go. But next up is going to be, I think I'm going to get the bell housing done. So I did some work on that before I decided I was making the videos, but I still need to put that all together, build it, and then I'll get everything bolted in, and I'll be able to see exactly where I am in terms of in terms of clearance and position. And who knows, it might be the case that the engine's not quite right when it's bolted up against that, and that may solve all my problems. I doubt it, but I live in hope. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully learn a few things, probably from the mistakes that I'm making, but yeah, with a bit of luck I'm going to get there. Also, particularly if you watched the last video as well, seeing a few mistakes and things that I'm making along the way here, and hopefully that's going to improve. I'm going to put some or try and get something to block a few things out, because some of the videos looking a bit confusing and really busy. But yeah, seems to be going okay on the car so far, if not quite as fast as I expected. I wasn't quite thinking I was going to get these obstacles, but yeah, appreciate the watch, and yeah, hopefully you'll be back for more. Thank you.